Thank you so much for joining me for our presentation for ProfCon 2023. I am Christina Garnett, Principal Marketing Manager of Offline Community and Advocacy at HubSpot, and I'm excited to chat with you today about fostering brand love and how you can drive customer affinity in the age of noise and automation. So to get started, there's going to be a lot of Ted Lasso gifs in here. I'm still in mourning, one of my favorite shows, and a testament to what the power of making people feel good can do and can have. And so it's really important to consider that in this day and age, you have a battle for attention. And this isn't just attention from your competitors. This is from everything. This is from the person's family, from the person's work, from what makes them happy, what makes them sad, the news. You're competing with everything in their ecosystem that's trying to get their attention. And so the easiest way to make sure that you're actually cutting into that noise is to make sure that you also are finding ways to make them care about you too. Here's the problem. This is going to take time, and there are some real truth bombs that we really need to dive into. For example, brand love is a powerful driver. Being able to associate a deep connection with a brand is going to be able to influence behaviors that other pain points just aren't going to. When it comes down to it, your relationships with your customers are your differentiator. They are your moat. How you make them feel appreciated and heard in the good times and in the bad. It's what's going to really kind of foster and strengthen those bonds so that they continue to want to do business with you. At the end of the day, people want people to be human. We want to see ourselves and resonate with others. And so being authentic and not false is incredibly important. And how you foster core memories with these people that they're going to continue to cherish and remember is going to help build those foundational connective pieces. It all comes down to connection. And how are you improving their life with your service, with your product, with how you take care of them, with how you empower them? At the end of the day, you have to be able to acknowledge that these connections are deeply valuable, but it's how you build those connections that are really going to set you apart. Now, I live on Twitter, so maybe I'm a bit more sensitive to this than others, but we are getting to a point where it seems like everyone wants to be a thought leader. Everyone wants to write like this really long thesis on LinkedIn, or they want to go on TikTok and tell you how to be a digital marketer, or they want to go on Twitter and create threads, but it feels like everyone's trying to be the voice and no one wants to be the consumer anymore, which is tough because in a world where everyone's trying to be a thought leader, who's left to really listen? And what you see is you're seeing a lot of bad actors come into this space and be able to throw out statistics that are false, that are throwing out hooks and thinking like they invented it. And what you have is this idea of hacks and like, this is the latest trick to be able to do this, or this is the latest tool that you can use to be able to really kind of get things to the next level and make sure that you scale. But at the end of the day, you need to understand that your audience has pattern recognition too. They may not pick up on it as quickly as someone who's in the trenches who does this kind of work, but they see it. And when they start seeing the same people do the same thing over and over again, it no longer works. Great example of this is the Black Friday emails, where they would extend the sale and they'd be like, oops, we made a mistake. And then everyone started using that subject line and that kind of tactic to the point where it was flooded and saturated, and it no longer works because these consumers aren't just getting one email, they're getting emails from multiple vendors and brands. And as soon as they start seeing it more than 2 or 3 times, it clicks. I know exactly what this is. I recognize this immediately. So you need to get back down to the basics, and you need to think about behavioral psychology. Why do people really do things? What motivates them? What makes them feel seen and heard and appreciated? What emotions drive impact and behavior? And you really need to understand what matters to them and what they care about. Now, this is hard because you're surrounded by noise, and everyone everywhere, there is this constant need and push for automation because there's more and more stuff to be done, but we're not adding any more hours to our time, but we're adding a significant amount of work. And so you need to be very thoughtful in how you fight this battle, because you not only need to fight the noise, but you need to fight the battle for efficiency too. You need to draw the line of what can be automated and what needs to still be human. At the end of the day, as consumers, we're tired. We're exhausted. As workers, we're tired. We're overworked. We're burned out. But because of that, I think it's important to go back to that really central message of Ted Lasso, which is believe. The thing is that your customers would love for you to delight them. They would love for you to be that example of a brand that gets it and wants to take care of them and isn't just feeding them buzzwords and like cute messages online and in emails, that you genuinely want to take care of them. You genuinely want them to have a good customer experience. And so, yes, there are Karens, and yes, there are people who love to complain, but a lot of your consumers, they would love to be delighted. They would love to be taken care of. And so it's important that when you are thinking about how you connect with people, that you assume best intent, that you understand that they want connection. They want you to treat them like a human. They don't want to get another pitch in their LinkedIn inbox. They want to be treated like a human that wants to connect with others. Now, that goes to a whole range of needs that we as humans have. And so I've changed and tweaked Maslow's hierarchy of needs to what it looks like on a scale of delight. And I think it's important to really kind of break down what this looks like, because a lot of brands will talk about, hey, we're going to give this swag and we're going to do this and we're going to do that and it's going to be amazing. But if they don't get the foundation right, that survivor level at the very bottom, the delight is worthless. Thanks for the hoodie, but I hate your product. Or it's a waste of time, or it's a waste of money, or it's a waste of effort. You have to make sure that you're giving them what you promised them and what you signed that contract for first. You have to make sure that you're taking care of them and listening to them. And then you got to make sure that for safety that you have a support system there in case something goes wrong. There's nothing that's absolutely perfect. Things are going to happen. Do you have an infrastructure in place to take care of them when things go badly? So that, yeah, it's not always perfect, but when something does happen, we're here for you. And then as you scale up, then you can start doing that warm and fuzzy stuff. But that warm and fuzzy stuff falls flat when people don't feel taken care of. It almost feels like a bribe when you're not taking care of them. Oh, here's a hoodie, thanks. But that doesn't change the fact that you didn't take care of me. That doesn't change the fact that your product is trash. And so you need to be very thoughtful that you've taken care of that core foundational survival and support pieces and safety before you move up to really kind of giving them that love and belonging. And then that's where brands usually try to stop. They usually give some swag and they pat themselves on the back and they're like, see, look at how great we were. But there's so much more that you can do. And that's where that esteem and that self-actualization comes from. It comes from that empowerment. How are you making their life better? How are you giving their work a sense of purpose? Or you're giving them an opportunity to step outside of their current role to do something even more powerful, to have a seat at the table. Is it they get to be a beta tester for your product? Is it they get to talk to leadership? Is it they get to go to a conference and speak? Whatever that looks like for you and your brand, it's important to remember that there's the opportunity to really kind of showcase what's important for people. And that is why brand love is so important, because once you craft that, then what you're doing is you're adding a connective piece to the pain point. Whereas you might say, well, we need to lower our price, or we need to make it more convenient, or we need to do this, or we need to do that in order to drive what's going to work for people. It's important to note that you have the opportunity to give them another reason to stay. Because when they leave, they aren't just leaving because you have a better product or someone has a better product. They're leaving. They can't leave because they'd also lose maybe a community that they're a part of, or they might lose empowerment opportunities, or they might lose something else. But because you've created this love, it acts as an amplifier for whatever pain points you're already taking care of. And so they're not just leaving you. It makes it harder to leave. And in a world where we're fighting for retention, that's a huge, huge motivator in making people stay. Now, here's the thing. A lot of my work is based off of vibes. It just is. It just is. And I can't go up to leadership and say, yeah, vibes are good. Vibes are good. We're doing a great job. That's fine, but that's not enough. And that's definitely not what leadership wants to see. They want to see data. They want to see measurable, impactful data that supports that this is actually moving for success, that I am approaching the OKRs that we have set up, and that there's a way for us to showcase that this is actually working, that people are staying, that people are finding new ways and upselling their use of us. And the way that I do this is I use this framework. So if we have the vibes piece and we have the business impact piece. So if we do blank, if we take care of them, if we listen to them, if we give them hoodies, if we, whatever that looks like for you. But if we do blank, and this is how we're treating them, then that's going to make them feel a certain way, hopefully positive, happy, special, VIP, whatever. Because of how that makes them feel, they're going to be more likely to do a certain behavior. Maybe they're going to talk positively about us online. Maybe they're going to renew. Maybe they're going to upsell a colleague who needs a similar product, whatever that looks like. And then that behavior can be tracked here. And so following that process, it's really hard to do attribution. But if you think about it from this framework, you can start figuring out where can you look for things? Where can you specifically track? So how do you fight back? We have this need for love. We have a lot of noise. We have a ton of automation requests, and we're trying to really kind of compete with this person's entire life. I'm competing with their spouse. I'm competing with their kids. I'm competing with their work. I'm competing with their hobbies. I'm competing with all of it to get their attention. And so the first thing you need to do is you need to be authentic. You need to be unapologetically on brand. And so when people talk to you, when they talk to anyone from your company, they have a very similar tone. Well, their staff is always friendly, or their staff is always funny, or their staff is always very quick and efficient, whatever that looks like for you. But it needs to feel like that amongst the staff, amongst your employees, so that no matter who they get to talk to, they're going to have a good experience. Next, people can tell when you care. They just can. Some can figure it out sooner than others, but they can tell. They can always tell. And so what you need to do is you need to care. And that's easier said than done. But if you don't love what you do, then the people you work with and the customers you take care of are going to also see that you don't love what you do. It's going to bleed into everything that you do. So you have to give a damn every second. And then you need to fight. I'm not saying don't automate. I work for HubSpot. I want you to automate stuff, but I want you to be thoughtful about what you automate. I want you to be protective of what has to be human, of what has to feel special and personalized and intimate, and what can be automated. It's an art. And you need to be able to figure out where that line lives for you so that you can be successful. So, being authentic and being thoughtful and creating content, it's hard. And I'm not going to say it's not. But what you create and what you're sharing with people, you have to remember that just because you have to post something doesn't mean it's going to work well, and people are going to remember that. So on social, I still see people doing glorified press releases on social, and it makes absolutely no sense. If you can't post something and explain to me why someone seeing this would care, then I need you to reevaluate. Maybe not should you post it, but how can you change it to make it consumable, to make it so that it will make people stop and it will make them care and be like, okay, I totally get why you're doing this. And I understand why I, as someone on this social channel or someone that's getting this email, cares about it. There's been a lot of conversations about Duolingo and other brands that are doing like really unhinged content on TikTok and other channels. And it works. And I'm not telling you to be unhinged. I am absolutely not telling you to be unhinged. What I am telling you to do is take off the tie. It's not that serious. Figure out how you can be playful, how you can have fun, how you can make people laugh, entertain them, drive an emotion other than I am bored and listless. Talk to your legal team if you have one and you're worried about what's going to work and what's not going to work. But if you're bored making the content, the people who are seeing the content are going to be just as bored, if not more. Let that be your litmus test. Are you bored creating this? Does this evoke any kind of emotion? Because if it doesn't for you and you're paid, then it's definitely not going to do that for someone who's not paid and is just scrolling. At the end of the day, you're driving emotions. You're connecting with people. You're making people feel seen and heard. And it doesn't have to be in these grandiose campaigns. Love is built in the small moments, in the moments where you respond to someone who likes your product and they mentioned you on Twitter or LinkedIn or Reddit or anywhere else. It's core memories is where you capture that connection with people and you make people feel special and heard and seen, and you become a part of something that's intrinsic to their life, something that they'll never forget. No one does this better than Chewy. Just God tier levels of delight. They showcase that they genuinely understand and care about what their customers care about. They have given cards to animals for their birthdays. They've sent paintings of pets to their owners. When animals have died and the customer has called to cancel their subscription, instead of trying to have this long-ended script on how to retain them as a customer, instead they lead with empathy. They give cards and flowers of condolence. They give paintings of their pets. They showcase and do that extra little thing that feels like so much more. And now they're creating something that people are going to cherish for the rest of their lives. And every time they pass that painting, Chewy is a part of their house now. And the next time they get an animal, they're going to go straight to Chewy because Chewy wasn't acting like a company. They were being empathetic and human. They treated their customers the way their best friend would when they lost an animal, not like a customer they're trying to take money from. And it's those little things that make people feel seen, that make people feel heard. It's relational. It's a relationship. It's not transactional. As soon as you start treating people like a relationship, the behaviors on both sides change. When it's transactional, it feels like you're only going to talk to me when you need something from me. Is my contract about to expire? Do you want me to upsell? If it's relational, I know you actually care about me. I know that I'm more than a customer. I know that our relationship, our connection is deeper than that. And I feel a sense of ownership in the relationship. And now when your company is successful, I feel successful because I feel like I'm a part of that. And that's going to make me more likely to become a fan and be able to share your message. Now, I focus really heavily on human interaction and what that needs to look like and how you need to be very protective of those conversations, of how you're talking to people, of how you can make them feel special and heard and what can be changed versus what's not. And so depending on how you talk to your customers, depending on how you talk to your audience, your community, you know your customers and your community better than I do. So I can do the whole strategist, it depends, because it does depend. So I want you to audit all of the times and all the ways that you touch your customers, your community. What are the things that provide the most intimacy, that provide the most connection, that provide the most personalization? I want you to mark those. What are those activities or the things that really truly build and strengthen the relationships? And I want you to keep those human. And then everything else, how can you automate it? Is it a workflow that you could create? Could you use ChatGPT to maybe do like a first draft of comms or emails if that's one of the things that you want to automate? What can you do to automate what's left so that you can be very protective of these really sacred connection points for customers? And I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes and a book that I would recommend all of you read. It's about how you can turn fans into customers and customers into fans. It's called Phenocracy. I absolutely adore it. And it's filled with examples of how brands are creating these connection points to foster that love, to foster these connections and relationships. And it says, to be successful in a world where fans rule, we must be convinced that relationships with customers are more important than the products or services we sell to them. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great day.